Welcome to the Mentored by Mark T channel. In the second video of this Payment Card Processing 101 playlist, I spent 1 minute and 57 seconds covering POS entry modes. And that was pretty fast. Click on the link at the top right of the screen to watch that complete video. In this video, I'll expand the list of POS entry modes. Let's analyze them to determine the good, the bad, and the ugly for each one. First, a bit of context. Payment innovations have been driven by several factors, including new ideas. Somebody thinks of a new way of doing or making something. Advancing technology. Payment technology advances have moved us from paper credit card slips to tokenized cards on phones. Cultural shift. The urbanization and globalization of society have changed the way we live and interact with others. Crime. Several payment card industry enhancements, from holograms to complex encryption solutions, are responses to increasingly sophisticated criminals. We will see that many of the POS entry modes have come from one or more of these innovation drivers. Let's get started with point-of-sale entry modes. We will start with the face-to-face POS entry modes, then move to non-face-to-face. The Knuckle Buster. Payment cards began in the 1950s. In those days, payment card transactions used paper credit card slips to capture the transaction details. Embossed numbers on the payment cards allowed manual imprinters, the Knuckle Busters, to transfer card and merchant data to paper forms. Click on the link in the top right of the screen to view my video on single message and dual message. There, you will find a fuller history of these paper transaction slips. As that video moves on, it reaches the 1980s and the advent of online point-of-sale terminals and electronic transaction routing. That is where we will begin this conversation on POS entry modes. Magstripe swiped. The invention of the online payment terminal also brought the invention of the magnetic stripe. This black stripe on the back of the card carries the card number, expiry date, cardholder name, and other information. The merchant simply has to swipe the card's magstripe through the terminal reader slot, and the terminal will read the tracked data off the card. The good. At its inception, Magstripe was not only good, it was amazing. Simplicity. Swiping the card in the terminal was so much easier than aligning the multi-part paper credit card slip and the card in the Knuckle Buster imprinter. Uniformity. The transaction amount is entered through a number pad on the terminal. This eliminated the errors caused by bad handwriting and weak carbons on the paper forms. Guarantee. The transaction details are carried from the terminal to the card issuer immediately. An approval response from the issuer is a guarantee of payment. With paper forms, a promise to pay with no guarantee was as good as it got. The bad. We will see a theme emerging as we go through this video. Technology doesn't age well. New technology is often called transformative, revolutionary, and even magic. However, technology ages quickly. Its innovations become its weaknesses. Gaps in its design necessitate new innovations that obsolete the existing technology. Magstripe had a good run for its first decade. However, over that time, weaknesses in the technology jumped to the forefront. Magstripe card readers are hard on cards. Swiping a payment card transfers data from the card to the terminal. It also, over time, wears down the embossed numbers on the front of the card. The card's magnetic stripe also wears out. Cards swiped multiple times a week have to be replaced well before their expiry date. They just wear out. The Magstripe is vulnerable. The mag in Magstripe stands for magnetic. Back in the Magstripe era, my wife purchased a new purse. Soon after that, each of her Magstripe cards stopped working. It took us a while to figure out the cause. The purse designer had placed a small card holder pocket on the outside of the purse. Unfortunately, they also used a magnetic clasp to hold the purse closed. That clasp sat on top of a pocket, the one holding the payment cards. The magnet in the clasp was erasing the Magstripe data from the cards in that card holder pocket. The ugly. As the card payment industry grew, it began to attract more criminal attention. Magstripe cards use very basic technology. Look at the back of a payment card. Doesn't that black stripe on the back of the card look like a piece of cassette tape? Yes, that is exactly what it is. If you look in the Magstripe reader slot of a terminal, you will see a cassette tape reader head. Those terminal heads can only read data. But what could you do if you used a read-write head? Criminals quickly learned that they could track data from valid payment cards. This is called skimming. Using cassette recorder technology, they would write the data stolen from the good cards to the Magstripe of blank cards. Then they could go shopping with the fraudulent cards. With this discovery, fraudsters found a new, inexpensive revenue stream. Criminals have leveraged that vulnerability for many decades. Only recently, payment networks have announced that Magstripe will be retired as a POS entry mode in the early 2030s. Contact EMV. EMV chip standards were invented to address many of the deficiencies of the Magstripe era. EMV introduced more complex technology. With EMV, terminals and cards became active participants in the transaction interaction. The first EMV cards had to be inserted into the terminal. This allowed them to make contact with the chip reader in the terminal, hence the name Contact EMV or Contact Chip. Almost all these cards also use PIN as a cardholder verification method. The good. EMV chip technology addresses most of the Magstripe weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Card data in the chip is securely protected. Data in EMV cards is encrypted. Even if it can be read, it is essentially useless unless it can also be decrypted. The card becomes an active participant in the interaction with the terminal. This dynamic data interchange has killed skimming as a fraud possibility for EMV transactions. The technology is much more rugged. EMV cards can endure much more use than Magstripe cards without wearing out. The bad. All technology design is forward-looking. Unfortunately, the future doesn't always follow the path we think it will. Here are some EMV future guesses that were wrong. Offline transactions. When EMV was developed, the internet was still in a lab. Communication circuits to link terminals to acquirers to issuers, they were extremely expensive. So, EMV developed technology to allow cards to interact with terminals not connected to circuits, offline authorization. Well, by the time EMV became ubiquitous, the internet was also becoming ubiquitous and circuit costs had fallen significantly. Unfortunately, the role of offline authorizations was never repurposed, so for many cards, offline parameters are extra complexity with little value. Transaction speed. This is a cultural shift that the designers of EMV could not foresee. People have become much more impatient. EMV card to terminal interaction was designed in an era where 5-second transaction was not a problem. However, today, many people find contact EMV transactions to be slow and cumbersome. The ugly. I will offer 2 examples of ugly for EMV. Acceleration of the criminal fraud industry. Magstripe technology had one major upgrade in its 40-year history. However, by the time EMV became the common technology, the payments industry was moving trillions of dollars per year. This meant criminals could spend millions of dollars per year developing new fraud technology. To combat this, EMV standards have to be updated frequently, creating a constant demand for terminal and chip technology upgrades. This leads to the second ugly. Card stock management. During the days of Magstripe, issuers could purchase large quantities of cards and use them up over 7 to 10 years' time. Because of EMV's constant updates, blank cards have a shelf life of 3 to 4 years. I've seen numerous occasions where issuers have had to shred thousands of blank cards. The card's EMV technology was outdated. The issuer could no longer deploy these cards in market. Contactless EMV. In a contactless transaction, the card is tapped on the terminal's contactless reader. This tap uses near-field communications to transmit the card data to the terminal. I worked for MasterCard through the invention, implementation, and eventual ubiquity of contactless EMV in the Canadian market. It was a fascinating time on a technology level. It was also an amazing social behavior experience. People were being challenged with a new behavior, tapping their card on the terminal. The good. There are some expected and unexpected items in the good category. Transaction speed. Contactless EMV, called tapping the card, is much faster than contact EMV, also known as dipping the card. The transition of fraud. By the time contactless arrived, fraud had largely been taken over by multinational criminal organizations. They focused their efforts on high-dollar purchases in higher-risk merchant categories like electronics, jewelry, and luxury items. They largely abandoned the low-dollar daily spend environment. This allowed TAP to relax some of the EMV security protocols, like PIN, without increasing fraud risk. Eventual ubiquity. In several markets like Canada, UK, and Australia, contactless has become ubiquitous. Not only has this made transactions faster, but it has also repaired the cardholder behavior and the merchant terminals for more advanced technology like card-on-phone tokens. The bad. Contactless, at least in Canada, had a bumpy start. This created a few bad hurdles that had to be overcome. Unexpected vulnerability. Contactless began with a static card value code or CVC number. Once in production, this became a significant vulnerability. Dynamic CVC technology was quickly developed, and any static CVC cards in market had to be replaced quickly. Underlying technology change. Contactless began in a Magstripe environment. Once dynamic CVC was developed, it worked well. However, the payment world was moving from Magstripe to EMV at the same time. The contactless interfaces on cards and terminals had to transition from Magstripe to EMV in a specific sequence. This was incredibly difficult. The ugly. The ugly of contactless was caused by issuers who didn't use best practices in their implementation. Were they lazy or just innocent to the vulnerabilities they exposed themselves to? We may never know the answer to those questions. Critical data on payment cards is secured with encryption keys. Best practices instructs issuers to use unique encryption keys for each card interface. By the time contactless arrived, a typical card had up to 4 interfaces: Magstripe, CVC2, more about that in a minute, Contact EMV, and Contactless EMV. Almost all issuers followed best practices. Each interface used a different encryption key. A very few issuers did not follow best practices. They shared one encryption key across all interfaces. This opened a huge fraud risk. Data skimmed from, for example, a tap transaction could then be used to create a fraudulent Magstripe card. This issuer shortcut created an enormous fraud impact. These cards also became the marketing props that launched an industry of RFID-shielded wallets and purses. Fortunately, those issuers lost a lot of money quickly and had a solid business case to follow best practices, effectively shutting down that fraud vulnerability. Unfortunately, the now unnecessary RFID shielded wallet industry still pulls in a steady income each year. Non-face-to-face. Each of the POS entry modes we have covered so far can only be used for face-to-face transactions. The cardholder must be at the merchant location and the card interacts directly with the merchant terminal. In payment jargon, a cardholder present, card present transaction. In parallel with the payment industry, another significant cultural shift has also occurred: the increase of non-face-to-face shopping. It began with mail-order catalog shopping, which is much older than payment cards. These catalog merchants expanded to telephone sales. With the advent of the internet, online shopping also made its debut. Globalization, a worldwide pandemic, and other socioeconomic factors have made non-face-to-face shopping common. Key entered. With the advent of payment cards, mail order and telephone order merchants quickly learned how to leverage payment cards. In the early days, the card number would be entered on the Sears catalog paper order form or provided to the merchant over the phone. With the advent of online terminals, the card information could be key entered by the merchant into a payment terminal, allowing for an immediate authorization of the purchase. The good. Payment cards replaced cash and checks. As I discussed in my video on dual message and single message, payment cards replaced cash and check, especially for the non-face-to-face merchants. Guaranteed payment. As non-face-to-face merchants implemented online terminals, they could key enter the card information into the terminal. This allowed the issuer to see and approve the authorization. That approval was a guarantee of payment from the issuer to the merchant before the product was shipped to the customer. Card on file. Almost all payment networks have created a POS entry mode called Card on File. This identifies merchants who have been given card information from the cardholder. That information has been verified by the merchant and the issuer. The cardholder has given the merchant permission to use that card for each of the cardholder's purchases. The bad. There are some challenges with key-entered transactions. Missing security features. To combat fraud, payment networks quickly developed CVC2 on cards. CVC2 is the set of 3 numbers on the back of the card. While this helped reduce fraud, key-entered transactions could not use other card security features from Magstripe and EMV technology. Using key entered for face-to-face transactions. I remember years ago purchasing some electronics at Best Buy. It was a busy shopping day. The employee offered to help me check out quickly. He went to a nearby store computer and key entered my card information to complete the transaction. Bypassing advanced card security at a high-risk merchant? I don't think any electronic store would allow that to happen today. It is a huge fraud risk. The ugly. The ugly with non-face-to-face has always been the fraud risk. Hotel reservations by phone, mail-order jewelry, these have all experienced inordinate levels of fraud compared to other POS environments. To mitigate this risk, merchants have implemented the following security measures. CVC 2. I think every key-entered merchant asks for the 3 numbers on the back of the card. Cardholder address. With transaction processing applications replacing simple terminals, phone merchants can send address information to the issuer for validation. Cardholder name. For years, merchants have requested the name on the card. However, only recently have the networks implemented data elements to carry name information back to the issuer for validation. Club or membership sign-up. Many merchants have created loyalty clubs and membership models. Not only do these drive loyalty and revenue, they also give the merchant an additional way to validate the customer and the card information. Internet and app replacing phone and mail. As mail order and phone order still carry significant risk, many merchants have migrated their non-face-to-face sales to e-commerce. E-commerce. Advancing technology created the internet. Cultural shift is increasingly causing people to use the internet for social and commercial aspects of their lives. Merchants have also migrated to the internet, some to overwhelming success, others to significant expense, but no success. The good. Technology advancement. In response to fraud risks, payment networks have quickly learned to work together to develop advanced security protocols for e-commerce merchants. Protocols like 3D Secure and their supporting technologies are updated at regular and frequent cadence. Cultural shift timing. The significant cultural shift to shopping online has occurred at the same time as e-commerce security and technology enhancements have matured. This has provided consumers with a more uniform e-commerce experience than in the early days of e-commerce. Merchant fraud prevention. The increasing market share of e-commerce and the increasing attention from fraudsters have provided merchants with a strong business case to implement merchant fraud tools. These tools can often identify and eliminate fraud attempts before a transaction is initiated. The bad. Fraud. Even with the frequent security updates, e-commerce fraud is still significantly higher than face-to-face fraud. As inexpensive fraud opportunities like Magstripe disappear, non-face-to-face merchants are seeing increasing attention from fraudsters. Expensive for the merchant. Though e-commerce merchants save the cost of retail space and distributed inventory, part of those savings are used to fund the necessary fraud tools to keep their e-store secure. Merchants must hire or subcontract to keep up with the constant updating of the security standards. The ugly. Uneven security adoption. It amazes me that significant players in the e-commerce ecosystem are so far behind in their security protocols. Maybe they think they have enough market share to absorb fraud losses without the expense of security best practices. Smaller merchants who don't have that buffer end up paying more for transactions, shipping, and security protocols than these large merchants. A good dose of social responsibility from the major players would go a long way in defunding fraudsters. Tokenization. Tokenization is a complex topic. I will make a separate video to give a more comprehensive overview of EMV and tokenization. At a very high level, tokenization places a unique identifier with supporting security technology in place of the payment card. The good. Tokenization builds on existing EMV technology. To a payment terminal, a token is a payment card. Tokenization allows non-face-to-face card-present transactions. That sentence is a mouthful. Let me give an example. I log into the Burger King app on my phone and order a meal. When I reach the checkout page, it offers me 2 payment options. Pay by card. With this option, I enter my card number, expiry date, CVC number, name, and address. This is sent as a key-entered transaction to my card issuer. The other option is Apple Pay or Google Pay. With this option, the application creates a secure link from the payment card token on my phone through the internet to the merchant terminal. The resulting transaction is cardholder not present, as I'm not at the store. The transaction is card present. The card token on my phone interacts directly with the merchant web app terminal in a Contact EMV transaction. This gives my non-face-to-face transaction the same security features as a Contact EMV transaction. The bad. To me, the bad of tokenization is its mystique. Like any cutting-edge technology, there's a lot of marketing noise. The technology is made to look far more advanced and mysterious than it really is. This mystique causes poor understanding of the technology. Poor understanding causes poor solution design. Poor solution design causes poor cardholder experience, and poor cardholder experience can derail a very good solution just because people don't understand it. The ugly. Technology is always in transition. As technology advances, there are more layers of transitioning technology attempting to build on each other. Tokenization builds on a multi-layered foundation of transitioning technology. Not all participants in the payment industry transition their technology layers at the same cadence. This has been the Achilles heel for tokenization. Things that would be simple for card products like card art updates, bin migrations, and card product definitions all become more complex and, at times, impossible at a tokenization level. Yes, tokenization supports all of these features very well, but only if the card issuer's technology is at a certain baseline. Unfortunately, some card issuers are not at that baseline, and that is what can make implementing and using tokens ugly. Wow, we have covered a lot of information in this video. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. If you have more questions about the payments industry, leave a message in the comments below. You can also contact me through my website, mentoredbymarkt.com, or via email, markt@mentoredbymarkt.com.